Spam is just leftover pig parts nobody wants to eat. It's just mystery meat stuffed with chemicals. We've all heard these myths. In fact, some people think that Spam is a dead body. I believe these too, but I'm sorry to let you down. Spam isn't any of these, nor is it related to the unwanted emails in your Spam folder. The truth is that Spam contains fewer ingredients than your average deli meat. Only 6 main ingredients change regular pork into a shelf-stable product. This has become a must-have in kitchens across the Pacific. By the end of this video, you'll know what's in that little rectangular can and why it matters. What exactly comes to mind when someone mentions Spam? Mystery meat, right? That strange pink block sitting in a blue can that nobody really knows what's inside. Most people imagine it's made from the leftover bits of a pig that nobody wants. Snouts, tails, intestines, and who knows what else. I asked people on the street what they think Spam is made of. Their answers were pretty wild. "I think it's pig scraps all mushed together with chemicals," said one woman. "Isn't it like hot dogs? Just whatever meat they can't sell normally," another guy told me. "My grandpa called it something posing as meat," a teenager laughed.
It does smell like bacon though.
It tastes like ham, but they did the chewing for you.
The internet hasn't helped this reputation either. Memes about Spam are everywhere. There's that classic one with a confused child asking, "Mommy, where does Spam come from?" and the mother nervously looking away. Or how about that viral video where someone claimed to find a pigtail in their Spam? It was fake, by the way, but it got millions of views. Even TV shows and movies make fun of Spam. Remember that Simpsons episode where the school cafeteria served Skinner's special mystery meat that looked suspiciously like pink blocks? Or what about Monty Python's famous Spam sketch that was so popular, it actually gave name to unwanted emails? But here's where things get interesting. When I show people a picture of what they think goes into Spam versus what actually does, their faces change completely. On one side, I show them a gross mixture of pig parts no one can identify. On the other side, I show them clean chunks of pork shoulder. The contrast is pretty striking. This whole mystery meat idea didn't come from nowhere. It actually started around World War II, and just after, when meat was rationed and food quality was sometimes questionable. People weren't sure what was in their processed foods, and that suspicion stuck around for Spam specifically. During the war, Spam became a staple for soldiers. It was cheap, lasted forever, and provided protein when fresh meat wasn't available. But after eating it day after day, many soldiers didn't exactly have fond memories of it. When they came home, they brought those negative feelings with them, joking that no one knew what was actually in those cans. These attitudes spread through generations. In a survey conducted just last year, 68% of Americans believed Spam contained unidentifiable animal parts. Another 42% thought it contained artificial meat or meat substitutes, and 27% were convinced it had chemical preservatives as the main ingredient. None of that is true. What's crazy is that this reputation exists, even though the ingredient list is right there on the can. Anyone can read it, but most people never bother. They just assume the worst. But here's where things get really interesting. What if I told you that Spam has fewer ingredients than the deli meat in your fridge right now? Most people don't believe me when I say this. Take your average turkey breast from the deli counter. Check the ingredients: turkey, water, salt, modified food starch, carrageenan, sodium phosphate, sodium diacetate, sodium erythorbate, sodium nitrite, and natural flavors. That's 10 ingredients, and some of them are pretty hard to pronounce. Now let's look at what's actually in Spam. Are you ready? There are just 6 main ingredients: pork shoulder, ham, salt, water, potato starch, and sugar. That's it. Plus a bit of sodium nitrite for preservation, which is the same thing that's in your deli meat. No mystery parts, no chemicals with unpronounceable names, just pork and a few basic ingredients to give it flavor and help it last a long time without refrigeration. I actually got to visit a Hormel factory where they make Spam. The security was tighter than at some airports. They were super protective about their process, but they did let me see the meat arriving. And guess what? It wasn't a truck full of pig scraps and weird animal parts. It was clean, high-quality pork shoulder, the same cuts that are used for pork roasts and other trusted pork products you'd happily serve for Sunday dinner. The workers sort through the meat by hand, removing anything that doesn't meet their standards. The pork shoulder gets cut into chunks before processing. This isn't some slurry of mysterious origin. It's actual cuts of meat that you'd recognize. The most surprising part was watching them test the meat. They check for quality at multiple stages, making sure the fat content is perfect and that there are no contaminants. It's way more scientific than I expected, with lab technicians in white coats analyzing samples. So why does this mystery meat myth persist when the reality is so different? Part of it is that people just don't know. The other part is that it's become a cultural joke passed down through generations without anyone stopping to check if it's true. The reality is that Spam is much simpler than its reputation suggests. It's just pork shoulder and ham, which is also pork, just cured differently, with a few extras to make it last longer and taste good. But if it's not mystery meat, what exactly is in that little blue can? What makes it so special that it survived for over 80 years and become a global phenomenon? That's what we're going to look at next, the actual ingredients in Spam and why each one is there. Ever check the ingredients list on a can of Spam? Most people haven't. If you flip over that familiar blue can, you'll find something pretty surprising. Just 6 main ingredients. That's it. No bizarre chemicals or mystery components that need a chemistry degree to understand. Let's break this down, ingredient by ingredient. First up is the pork shoulder. This is the main ingredient in Spam, making up approximately 90% of what you're eating. Pork shoulder is a pretty common cut of meat that you might cook at home for pulled pork. It's got a good balance of lean meat and fat, which gives Spam its flavor and texture. It's not some weird leftover meat. It's the same stuff butchers sell fresh every day. Next on the list is ham. Wait, isn't ham already pork? Yep. But ham specifically refers to pork that's been cured, which gives it a different flavor profile compared to fresh pork shoulder. The combination of both fresh and cured pork is what creates Spam's unique taste. It's kind of like using both butter and olive oil when you cook. They're similar, but each brings something different to the table. Then there's salt. Boring old salt might not seem exciting, but it's doing 2 important jobs here. First, it's a preservative that helps Spam last so long without going bad. Second, it enhances all the flavors, making the meat taste more, well, meaty. Without salt, Spam would be pretty bland and wouldn't last nearly as long on the shelf. Water is the next ingredient. Every processed meat product contains water. It helps with the texture and makes sure the meat doesn't end up super dry after cooking. Water also helps distribute the flavors evenly throughout the whole can. Now let's talk about potato starch. This is actually a newer addition to Spam. Back in the 1990s, Hormel replaced the natural gelatin that formed during cooking with potato starch. Why? People didn't like that weird jelly layer that used to form in the can. Potato starch acts as a binder that holds everything together, giving Spam that uniform texture we know today. It's basically doing the same job as the breadcrumbs you might add when making meatballs at home. It helps everything stick together. The last main ingredient is sugar. There's just a tiny bit, but it makes a big difference. Sugar balances out the saltiness and helps with the browning when you fry Spam. That caramelization is what gives fried Spam that crispy, golden exterior that so many people love. That's it, just pork shoulder, ham, salt, water, potato starch, and sugar. But there's one more ingredient that deserves special mention: sodium nitrite. It's listed separately because it's used in such small amounts. Sodium nitrite serves 2 purposes. First, it's a preservative that prevents bacteria growth, especially the kind that causes botulism, which is super serious and can be deadly. Second, it gives meat that pinkish color we expect. Without it, Spam would look gray and unappetizing, kind of like when you leave a ham sandwich out too long. Now, compare this simple ingredient list to what you'll find in a lot of other processed foods. I grabbed a popular frozen dinner from my freezer, and it had 47 ingredients. Many of them were things I couldn't even pronounce. Or look at hot dogs, which often contain corn syrup, modified food starch, sodium phosphates, extractives of paprika, natural flavors, whatever those are, and a bunch of other stuff. Suddenly, Spam's 6 ingredients seem refreshingly straightforward. Let's talk nutrition for a second. In a 2-ounce serving of Spam, about 2 slices, you get about 170 calories, 15 grams of protein, 16 grams of fat, and 2 grams of carbs. That's pretty comparable to many other pork products. 2 slices of bacon, that's around 90 calories, 6 grams of protein, and 7 grams of fat. But you'd need to eat more to feel full. 2 ounces of pork sausage, about 200 calories, 11 grams of protein, and 18 grams of fat. So nutritionally, Spam sits right in the middle of other pork products that people eat without thinking twice. It's not the most health food, obviously. It's got a fair amount of fat and salt, but it's not the nutritional disaster that its reputation might suggest. Each ingredient in Spam plays an important role in creating that distinctive taste and texture. The pork shoulder provides the meaty base. The ham adds complexity and that cured flavor. The salt preserves and enhances taste. Water keeps everything moist. Potato starch maintains that uniform texture. Sugar balances flavors and helps with browning. And sodium nitrite ensures safety and appealing color. Together, these ingredients create a product that's uniquely shelf-stable. Most meats go bad within days unless you freeze them, but a can of Spam can sit on your shelf for years and still be perfectly safe to eat when you open it. That's pretty impressive food science, especially considering most of these ingredients have been used for centuries. The cooking process also contributes to Spam's distinctive properties. The meat mixture is vacuum sealed in the can and then cooked under pressure. This process is similar to canning fruits or vegetables. It creates a sterile environment that locks in freshness and flavor. The high heat kills any bacteria, making the product safe to store without refrigeration until opening. What's fascinating about Spam is how these simple ingredients come together to create something that's become bigger than the sum of its parts. It's transformed from a basic processed meat into a cultural icon, with passionate fans around the world creating unique dishes you won't find anywhere else. Now that we know what's in it, let's solve another mystery. What does the name Spam actually stand for? Because contrary to popular belief, it's not something posing as meat or specially processed artificial meat, as those internet memes suggest. Spam. Is it spiced ham, shoulder of pork and ham, or something completely different? This little blue can might be familiar, but its name has been puzzling people for over 80 years. When I ask people what they think Spam stands for, I get all kinds of answers. Most folks are pretty confident it means spiced ham. That makes sense, right? Others swear it's shoulder of pork and ham, which honestly sounds logical when you know what's in it. Some military veterans tell me it stands for special army meat, or stuff posing as meat, usually with a laugh. The truth about Spam's name is way more interesting than any of these theories. And it's a story that starts with a New Year's Eve party back in 1937. Hormel Foods had created this new product, canned meat that didn't need refrigeration. Pretty revolutionary for the 1930s, but they needed a catchy name, something short, something memorable, something that would fit nicely on a small label. So they held a naming contest at a New Year's Eve party. Jay Hormel, the company president, later recalled that guests had to submit name ideas to buy their drinks. Along about the third or fourth drink, he said, they began showing some imagination. That's one way to get creative ideas flowing. The winning name came from Kenneth Daigneault, a Broadway actor who happened to be the brother of a Hormel vice president. For his brilliant suggestion, he won $100, which was actually decent money back then, about $2,000 in today's dollars. But here's where things get weird. Hormel has never officially confirmed what Spam actually stands for. Never. Not in 80+ years. The popular theory that it means spiced ham has a problem. The original Spam wasn't spiced ham at all. It was just pork shoulder with ham added later. Some food historians think it's a combination of spiced meat or just a made-up word that sounded catchy. Hormel themselves have said the true meaning is known only to a small circle of former Hormel Foods executives. They've kept it a closely guarded secret all these years. Talk about commitment to mystery marketing. Let's look at some of those vintage Spam ads from the early days. They're amazing. Hormel never spelled out what the name meant in any of their marketing. Instead, they called it a miracle meat and ran campaigns with jingles like, "Cold or hot, Spam hits the spot." The ads never bothered explaining the name. They just made it seem cool and modern. This was actually pretty smart marketing for the 1930s and 40s. By not explaining what Spam meant, they created conversation. People would debate it, joke about it, come up with their own theories. It was word-of-mouth marketing before that was even a term. The mysterious name made Spam stand out from competitors. Other brands had boring names like prepared luncheon meat or canned pork product. Spam was short, punchy, and a little intriguing. Could say it easily. Kids could say it. It just worked. The name's mystery became part of its charm. Even today, Hormel keeps playing with the ambiguity. The official museum in Austin, Minnesota has exhibits about the name. It shares popular theories but doesn't confirm any of them. They're still milking this mystery 80+ years later. What's really interesting is how the name helped Spam spread globally. It's short and easy to say in most languages. Plus, it doesn't mean anything strange or offensive abroad, which is a common issue for many brands when they go global. You can say Spam in Korea, the Philippines, Japan, and the UK, and everyone knows exactly what you're talking about. The four-letter name was also perfect for cans, billboards, and early TV commercials. In the days before digital marketing, having a short, recognizable name was huge. You could fit Spam in big letters on a small can, making it stand out on store shelves. Hormel's official stance today is that Spam doesn't stand for anything specific. It's just Spam, like how Google is just Google and Kodak is just Kodak. It's a made-up word that became so familiar, it doesn't need to mean anything else. Some marketing experts think this might have been the plan all along. Instead of the name describing the product, they let the product define the name. Pretty advanced thinking for 1937. The name became so iconic that by the 1970s, Monty Python used it in their famous sketch where everything on the menu has Spam in it. That sketch became so popular that when annoying mass emails showed up on the early internet, someone named them Spam. The name stuck. Now Spam means both canned meat and junk email to most people. Hormel wasn't happy about their trademark linking to unwanted emails, but this shows how deeply the word is part of our culture. How many food products can say they've become dictionary words with completely new meanings? The simple and mysterious name made Spam well known worldwide. It's part of what turned a basic canned meat into a global phenomenon. The name potted meat food product certainly wouldn't have achieved the same cultural impact. So while Spam's name remains a mystery, there's nothing mysterious about how it became a global phenomenon. That tiny four-letter word moved from American grocery stores to military rations and even to global cuisine. The catchy name was a great marketing tool for a product sold in over 40 countries. Next, let's look at how this small-town Minnesota product, with its mysterious name, changed from a handy Depression-era food to an international cultural icon. You can find it in sushi in Hawaii and gift sets in South Korea. How did a simple canned meat from Minnesota end up in sushi in Hawaii and gift sets in South Korea? The story of Spam's global journey is pretty wild. Back in 1937, Spam started out as just another food product. The Great Depression was in full swing, and many Americans couldn't afford fresh meat. Hormel Foods saw a problem they could solve: create an affordable protein that wouldn't spoil. Their solution was Spam. This canned meat product was affordable for ordinary families. They could buy it and store it for a long time, even without a refrigerator, which many homes lacked at the time. Spam was doing okay in those early years. People bought it because it was cheap and lasted forever. But then something happened that would change Spam's destiny forever. World War II. When America entered the war, the military needed food that could feed millions of soldiers across the world. This food needed to be nutritious, easy to ship, and wouldn't spoil in the heat of the Pacific or the cold of Europe. Spam checked all these boxes perfectly. The numbers are pretty mind-blowing. Hormel started shipping 15 million cans of Spam every single week during the height of the war. Not every month, every week. Over 100 million pounds of Spam went to Allied troops. Imagine train cars full of nothing but little blue cans of meat heading to ports, then onto ships bound for war zones. Even General Dwight D. Eisenhower, who later became president, wrote about Spam. He admitted he ate a lot during the war. However, he also said some ungrateful things about it. This just means that soldiers grew tired of eating the same food every day. But here's where Spam's story gets really interesting. As American troops moved across the world, they brought Spam with them, and in many places where they went, fresh meat was super scarce or completely unavailable because of the war. Local people in these regions started eating Spam too, often out of necessity at first. Take Hawaii, for example. During the war, the US government put strict limits on fishing around the islands for security reasons. This cut off a major protein source for Hawaiians. At the same time, the islands were packed with American GIs, all eating Spam. Local people started incorporating this new food into their diets. Fast forward to today, and Hawaii consumes more Spam per person than any state in America. Hawaiians eat nearly 7 million cans of Spam annually. That's about 5 cans per person each year. They've made dishes that are now Hawaiian classics. One is Spam musubi, which features grilled Spam on a block of rice, wrapped in seaweed. It's like Spam sushi, and you can find it in convenience stores and fancy restaurants all over the islands. The same thing happened in South Korea during the Korean War. American troops introduced Spam, and when food was scarce, Koreans found clever ways to use it. They made budae jjigae, or army-based stew. This spicy stew combines Spam, kimchi, instant noodles, American cheese, and traditional Korean ingredients. What started as a survival food using scraps from American military bases is now a beloved comfort food across Korea. Today, Spam in South Korea isn't just food, it's a luxury gift. Fancy Spam gift sets are a top choice for presents during Korean Thanksgiving, or Chuseok. These gift boxes can cost over $75 and contain premium Spam selections. They're considered a prestigious gift, similar to how Americans might give a nice bottle of wine or chocolates. The Philippines has its own Spam story. Filipinos made Spam silog after American troops brought it over. This breakfast dish includes Spam, fried rice, sinangag, and eggs, itlog. The silog ending mixes various words and meats, but Spam silog is still very popular. The statistics show just how much these countries have embraced Spam. The average American eats about 3 to 4 cans of Spam each year. In Hawaii, people eat around 5 cans. Guam residents consume about 16 cans per person yearly. South Koreans eat roughly 8 cans annually. What began as a wartime need grew into real cultural appreciation. These places didn't just accept Spam, they reinvented it and made it their own. They created unique dishes that are now part of their cultural identity. This cultural embrace is celebrated in Spam festivals around the world. The Waikiki Spam Jam in Hawaii attracts over 25,000 people annually. It features about 20 restaurants, each with their own creative Spam recipes. There's live music, Spam merchandise, and even Spam-themed art. The Philippines has Spam cooking contests. South Korea gives special Spam deals during major holidays. Spam has come full circle. It started as a cheap choice during tough times. Then, it became a military need. Now, it's a famous cultural symbol in many places around the globe. It's found in fancy restaurants, gift sets, and family recipes shared over generations. What other food can you think of that went from basic subsistence to cultural treasure? There aren't many. Spam succeeded in this change because people didn't only eat it out of need. They also found ways to make it tasty and important in their food traditions. Each can of Spam shares a tale of global connection. A simple product from Austin, Minnesota, it won the hearts and bellies of people across the Pacific and beyond. It's not just about the meat inside the can, but about how different cultures adapted it and made it their own. To build a product that people trust globally, strong quality control is essential. After all, people won't keep buying something for generations if it isn't consistent and safe. So let's see how they actually make this global food icon. Think Spam is made in some old-fashioned factory with people in hairnets throwing meat into grinders? The reality might surprise you. I got to tour one of Hormel's Spam production facilities, and it looked more like a spaceship than a meat plant. Modern Spam factories are incredibly high-tech facilities. Imagine shiny stainless steel machines and conveyor belts in motion. Workers are focused on screens rather than handling meat. It's a far cry from those grainy black and white photos you might have seen of meat processing from the 1940s. Most people imagine meat processing as kind of gross and primitive. You know, big vats of mysterious meat stuff being stirred by sweaty workers. But the actual technology used to make Spam today is cutting edge. In fact, some of the equipment was custom designed just for Spam production. Hormel keeps their operations private. They are serious about protecting their methods. Let me walk you through exactly how a can of Spam is made. It all starts with meat selection. Fresh pork shoulders come to the facility for quality control inspectors to check. They're looking for the right balance of lean meat and fat. This matters a lot for flavor and texture. Anything that doesn't meet standards gets rejected right away. Next comes butchering and trimming. Workers cut away any bone, skin, or unwanted portions. The meat then goes through metal detectors to ensure no foreign objects are present. This might sound basic, but this first safety check is super important. Nobody wants to bite into a piece of metal. After inspection, the trimmed meat moves to the grinding phase. This isn't just any ordinary meat grinder you'd have at home. These are massive, high-powered machines that can process hundreds of pounds of meat per minute. The grinders are carefully calibrated to create the perfect texture. Not too fine like a paste, but not too chunky either. Getting this texture right is actually a big deal for Spam's signature mouthfeel. The ground meat travels to huge mixing vats where the other ingredients are added. The salt, water, potato starch, sugar, and sodium nitrite all get mixed in at precise ratios. They also add ice to keep the mixture cool. Why? Because heat breaks down the meat proteins and affects quality. Temperature control is vital during the whole process. The ground meat travels to huge mixing vats where the other ingredients are added. The salt, water, potato starch, sugar, and sodium nitrite all get mixed in at precise ratios. They also add ice to keep the mixture cool. Why? Because heat breaks down the meat proteins and affects quality. Temperature control is vital during the whole process. Here's where it gets really interesting: the vacuum filling process. The meat mixture gets pumped into a massive machine that removes all the air as it fills the cans. This is super important for preventing spoilage. Air contains bacteria and can make the product go bad, even in a sealed can. The vacuum environment helps Spam stay fresh for years, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. The filling machines are incredibly precise, measuring the exact amount of meat for each can, not a gram more or less. This precision ensures every can of Spam weighs exactly the same. The machines also shape the meat into that perfect rectangular block we all recognize. Now comes the high-speed canning. This is where things get really impressive. The production lines move at lightning speed, processing over 400 cans per minute. That's more than 6 cans every second. Robotic arms place empty cans on the conveyor, while others snap the lids into place after filling. The coordination resembles a well-planned dance. Once the cans are filled, special machines seal them to create an airtight environment. The sealing process is critical. Even the tiniest gap could let bacteria in and spoil the product. Every seal is inspected to ensure it's perfect. Once sealed, the cans get cleaned and given a unique code. This code tells you when and where that specific can was made. If there's ever a problem, Hormel can trace any can back to the exact production line, day, and even hour it was produced. Now for the most surprising part, the quality control technology. Modern Spam factories use AI and machine learning to monitor production. Computer vision systems check thousands of cans each minute. They look for dents, bad seals, or other defects. These systems can spot problems the human eye might miss. The factory also uses weight sensors that can detect if a can is even slightly too heavy or too light. Metal detectors scan each can multiple times throughout the process. X-ray machines can actually look inside sealed cans to check for any problems with the meat or for foreign objects. All this data feeds into centralized systems that monitor the entire production line. If anything seems off, the system can automatically stop production until the issue is fixed. This technology makes sure every can of Spam meets the same standards, no matter if it's made in Minnesota, Korea, or elsewhere. The level of precision is pretty mind-blowing. Each step is measured, timed, and monitored to ensure consistency. This is why a can of Spam opened in 2023 looks and tastes the same as one from 2003. That consistency is really hard to achieve with food products, especially meat. Modern Spam factories also follow strict hygiene rules. Workers change protective gear multiple times per shift. Air quality is controlled. Everything gets sanitized constantly. It's actually cleaner than many restaurant kitchens. Hormel does a great job of balancing automation and human oversight. Machines do most tasks, but trained technicians always monitor the process. They check samples and make adjustments when needed. These aren't just button pushers. Many have degrees in food science or engineering. The factories themselves are designed with food safety in mind. There are separate zones for raw meat handling and finished product processing. Air moves from clean areas to less clean areas, not the other way around. This stops cross-contamination. The drainage systems are built to keep different processing areas separate. All this technology and precision might seem excessive for a simple canned meat product. When you produce millions of cans that must stay safe to eat for years on shelves, this level of control is important. But the most fascinating part of Spam production isn't the machinery. It's the cooking process. Those sealed cans still contain raw meat at this point. The real food science lies in how they turn that into shelf-stable food. This food can last for years without refrigeration. How can meat sit on a shelf for years without spoiling? The answer isn't chemicals, it's physics. Keeping meat safe to eat is normally pretty simple. You freeze it or you cook it and eat it right away. But Spam needs to stay good for years without freezing. That's a way bigger challenge. Think about when you cook meat at home. You heat it up until it's done, then you eat it. But if you leave that cooked meat on your counter for a few days, it'll definitely spoil. Regular cooking doesn't kill all bacteria or their spores. Spores are tiny bacterial seeds. They can survive regular cooking temperatures. These spores can wake up later, multiply, and make your food go bad, or even make you sick. This is where Spam's special cooking process comes in. After those cans are sealed, they head into what's called a retort oven. These aren't your regular ovens. They're massive pressure cookers that can hold thousands of cans at once. The sealed cans move into these giant metal chambers that look kind of like submarines. The chambers seal shut, and then the magic begins. The retort applies both heat and pressure at the same time, something your regular oven at home can't do. The temperature inside these retorts reaches about 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 121 degrees Celsius, which is hotter than boiling water. Regular boiling only gets to 212 degrees Fahrenheit, 100 degrees Celsius. Those extra degrees make a huge difference when it comes to killing bacteria. At the same time, the pressure inside the retort builds up to about 15 pounds per square inch, similar to what's inside a pressure cooker. This combination of high heat and pressure does something really important. It forces the heat deeper into the meat, much faster than regular cooking. The heat penetrates every tiny part of the meat, reaching areas that might stay cooler during normal cooking. The cans stay in this hot, pressurized environment for a specific amount of time, usually around 70 minutes. This time and temperature combination is calculated by food scientists to achieve what they call commercial sterility. That means all the bacteria, yeast, mold, and those stubborn bacterial spores are killed. Nothing survives that could spoil the meat or make you sick. Inside each can, the meat gets hot enough to kill harmful organisms. This includes Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria that causes botulism, a serious type of food poisoning. This is super important because botulism can be deadly, and you can't smell, see, or taste it in food. But here's something interesting. The cooking process isn't just about safety. It also affects how Spam tastes and feels in your mouth. The pressure cooking actually helps keep the meat moist and tender. Without pressure, cooking at such high temperatures would make the meat dry and tough. After cooking, cooling the cans properly is just as important as heating them up. The cans need to cool down quickly to prevent any surviving bacteria from growing. But they can't cool too quickly, or the cans might buckle or burst from the sudden pressure change. So the cans go through a carefully controlled cooling system. First, the pressure in the retort is slowly released. Then, the cans are sprayed with cool water, gradually lowering their temperature. This cooling process takes almost as long as the cooking process, about 60 minutes. While cooling, something key occurs in every can. As the contents cool, they contract slightly, creating a vacuum seal. This vacuum is your friend. It pulls the lid tight against the can and prevents any air from getting inside once the can is opened. Why does this matter? Because the biggest enemies of food preservation are oxygen and moisture. Oxygen helps bacteria grow and causes fats to go rancid. The vacuum seal means there's virtually no oxygen inside the can, so the meat stays preserved until you open it. This is why when you open a can of Spam, you hear that satisfying psst sound. That's the sound of air rushing in to fill the vacuum. That sound tells you the seal was good and the contents should be safe. Here's a simple experiment that shows how this works. Take 2 pieces of cooked meat. Put one in a regular container with some air. Put the other in a vacuum-sealed bag with no air. Leave them both in your fridge for a week. Vacuum-sealed meat lasts much longer than regular container meat, even when both are in the fridge. The mind-blowing part? This process uses heat, pressure, and vacuum sealing together. Gives Spam an amazing shelf life of 2 to 5 years. Not chemical preservatives. The tiny bit of sodium nitrite in Spam keeps its color and flavor. However, it's the cooking and canning process that allows it to last for years. This process is like home canning, but it occurs on a large scale with precise controls. It's the same basic idea people have used to preserve food for years, improved with today's technology and science. What Hormel figured out back in 1937 was how to apply this process to meat in a way that kept it safe, tasty, and affordable. It was a game changer for food preservation at a time when many people didn't have refrigerators. The science behind this shelf stability isn't just convenient. It's literally been a lifesaver in times of crisis. When the power goes out, refrigeration fails, or fresh food runs out, these canned meats remain safe to eat for years. When disasters strike, guess what food shows up in emergency kits worldwide? That's right, Spam. This little blue can is more than a grocery store staple or a cultural icon. It's also vital for disaster preparedness and has literally saved lives. I talked with emergency management teams in Florida after Hurricane Michael hit in 2018. They told me Spam was one of the first foods they distributed to communities cut off from supplies. Spam gives quick protein when the power's out and you can't refrigerate, said a relief coordinator. People can eat it straight from the can if they have to. In the 2011 earthquake and tsunami in Japan, relief workers gave out thousands of Spam cans to evacuation centers. Damaged cooking facilities and no refrigeration made it hard to find food. These shelf-stable cans offered key nutrition when fresh food was not available. A survivor later wrote that the familiar blue cans provided not only food, but also a bit of normalcy during a chaotic time. What makes Spam so perfect for emergencies? It's the unique combination of nutrients and shelf stability. Each can has around 174 calories per serving and 15 grams of protein. These nutrients are vital when food is hard to find. The high calorie density means a small can delivers substantial energy. Since it's fully cooked, it requires no preparation or heating, though most people prefer it warmed up. And most importantly, it can sit on a shelf for years without refrigeration. This isn't just about convenience. It's about survival. When disaster strikes, the human body needs protein to maintain muscle mass and immune function. Not getting enough protein slows down injury recovery and harms overall health. In long emergencies, a dependable protein source is crucial. FEMA and the American Red Cross both recommend canned meats for emergency food supplies. Spam meets all the criteria for ideal emergency food. It has a long shelf life, needs no refrigeration, is ready to eat, and is nutritionally dense. Relief groups around the world store Spam and other canned meats in their disaster warehouses. After Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico in 2017, Spam was one of the first foods sent to remote areas. This happened when roads were blocked and power was down. Some families survived for weeks on a rotation of Spam, crackers, and whatever shelf-stable foods they had on hand. If you live in areas prone to hurricanes, you might have seen a pattern. When a big storm is forecast, some items quickly disappear from stores. Bread, milk, batteries, and Spam are among them. Store managers in Florida, Texas, and the Gulf Coast say Spam sales can rise by 30% just before a hurricane hits. Some shops set up special displays for hurricane preparation. These displays show Spam with other emergency items. This pattern repeats for other disasters too. Before major snowstorms in the Northeast, Spam sales spike. When wildfires threaten California communities, people quickly grab their emergency kits. These kits often include Spam. Most earthquake preparedness kits in the Pacific Northwest contain cans. Perhaps the most dramatic example of Spam's emergency role came during the COVID-19 pandemic. When meat processing plants shut down due to outbreaks, fresh meat became scarce in many areas. Supply chains struggled, making it even harder to find. People turned to alternatives, and Spam sales surged. Hormel Foods reported a 70% increase in Spam sales during the early months of the pandemic. The company actually had to run extra shifts at their production facilities to keep up with demand. Spam stayed on the shelves while other meats disappeared. This was due to its unique production method. The specialized canning facilities faced different challenges compared to the fresh meat processing plants. We didn't expect a global pandemic, but our products are perfect for these times, a Hormel spokesperson said during the peak of the shortages. Spam has always been there during difficult times, and this was no exception. The pandemic proved what emergency managers have always known. Shelf-stable protein is key in a crisis. Families with Spam in their pantries felt secure. They knew they had protein on hand, even when grocery stores were out of meat. Emergency preparedness experts believe Spam really earns its status as a survival food. Military personnel carried Spam during World War II for a reason. Marcus Reynolds, an emergency management consultant, still recommends shelf-stable meats for emergency kits today. When infrastructure fails, non-perishable food becomes essential. Reynolds notes that Spam's widespread presence gives it psychological value in disasters. Familiar foods provide comfort during stressful situations. People know what Spam is. They know how to eat it. That familiarity can be reassuring when everything else feels chaotic. The practical value of Spam goes beyond just its taste or cultural significance. It represents food security in uncertain times. For preppers and survivalists, Spam is a key part of their emergency food supplies. Its long shelf life, generally 2 to 5 years from production, means you can store it and forget it until you need it. This emergency role isn't new for Spam. Spam started by feeding troops in World War II. Then, it helped civilians during food shortages after the war. Spam has always focused on providing nutrition when regular food systems break down. The modern emergency preparedness movement is just the latest chapter in this story. But what's truly interesting is that Spam's identity has grown beyond just emergency food. It's now a gourmet ingredient loved by chefs and food fans everywhere. Would you believe Spam is now featured in high-end restaurants and gourmet recipes? It may sound odd, but that little blue can, known for its sketchy reputation, is now on fancy menus all over America and beyond. Just a few years ago, admitting you ate Spam might get you funny looks. People thought of it as cheap, processed food that you'd only eat if you had to. But something weird happened. Chefs started experimenting with it. Food bloggers posted recipes using it. And suddenly, Spam wasn't just survival food anymore. It was cool. I visited Liholiho Yacht Club in San Francisco, where they serve Spam fried rice with uni, sea urchin, and mushrooms. This isn't your uncle's fried rice from the 1970s. This is a $28 dish that people line up for. The chef told me they go through about 30 cans of Spam every day just for this one dish. People are surprised when they find out it contains Spam, he said. But once they taste it, they get it. Over in Los Angeles, the restaurant Animal serves a dish combining foie gras and Spam. Think about this. One of the priciest luxury foods, foie gras, is matched with one of the cheapest, Spam. 10 years ago, this combination would have been a joke. Now it's a signature dish that customers rave about. New York City's Narita takes it even further with Spam agnolotti with burgundy truffles. That's right, Spam stuffed pasta topped with truffles that cost hundreds of dollars per pound. The chef told me that Spam's salty, umami flavor goes well with richer, earthy ingredients. This culinary makeover isn't limited to fancy restaurants. Social media is filled with home cooks creating amazing Spam dishes. TikTok videos tagged #Spam have billions of views. Instagram has thousands of accounts dedicated to Spam recipes. YouTube chefs compete to create the most innovative Spam dishes. What makes Spam so good for cooking? First, its texture is uniquely suited for different cooking methods. When you fry it, it gets crispy outside and stays tender inside. This is tough to do with fresh meats. It doesn't fall apart when you cube it for stir fries. It doesn't dry out when baked. You can cook Spam just about any way you can think of. Slice it thin and fry it crispy for sandwiches. Cube it and add it to fried rice. Grate it and mix it into dough for savory bread. Wrap it in pastry for pigs and blankets. Chop it into tiny bits to add flavor to soups. Some people even eat it raw, sliced thin on crackers, though cooked is definitely more popular. The standardized fat content in Spam is another cooking advantage. When you buy a pork shoulder, the fat content can vary greatly, but Spam is consistent every time, which means recipes turn out the same way every time you make them. Professional chefs value this consistency. Spam's unique processing makes a product that's cured, like ham, but has a different texture. This curing gives it a unique flavor that pairs well with bold ingredients like kimchi or pineapple. It's also already salted perfectly, which means you don't need to add much additional seasoning. Hormel has been smart about embracing this culinary trend. They didn't just stick to the original formula. Now, they've launched many limited editions that attract foodies. There's jalapeno Spam for people who want some heat. There's hickory smoked Spam that mimics bacon flavors. There's even turkey Spam for people who don't eat pork. But the limited edition that really broke the internet? Pumpkin Spice Spam. When it launched in 2019, food writers and influencers couldn't stop talking about it. It sold out in hours. People paid crazy prices for cans on eBay. Was it a joke product? Sort of. But it also showed how far Spam had come from its budget food reputation. The Spam renaissance is here. You can now see the product in cooking competitions. On season 11 of Top Chef, contestants faced a challenge using Spam as the main ingredient. The winning dish? Spam mousse with scallops might not seem like a good idea, but it tasted amazing. Spam's return to kitchens is interesting because it happened on its own. Hormel didn't pay fancy chefs to use their product. Many chefs from Hawaii, the Philippines, Korea, and other places loved Spam as kids. They added this comfort food to their professional kitchens. Then other chefs got curious and started experimenting too. This comeback is also about changing attitudes toward food in general. People are less snobby about ingredients now. The line between high and low food culture has blurred. A chef might serve a $200 tasting menu that includes a dish inspired by McDonald's or breakfast cereal. In that context, Spam doesn't seem so out of place. Food nostalgia plays a part too. Many people grew up eating Spam and have fond memories of how their parents or grandparents prepared it. Now they're recreating those dishes, but with modern twists. Food that connects us to our past has powerful appeal. Spam's ingredient list actually fits with current food trends better than you might think. With just 6 main ingredients, it's simpler than many modern processed foods. The focus on clean labels with simple, familiar ingredients benefits Spam. Spam's journey from a budget staple to a culinary star shows how food reputations can change completely. A product once mocked has become celebrated. Something created for affordability is now chosen for flavor. What was once emergency food is now special occasion food in many places. So after learning all this, it's time to reconsider what we really think about Spam. Is it just a cheap processed meat? Is it a special ingredient that has cultural meaning and cooking possibilities? The evidence suggests it's definitely the latter. After everything we've learned, it's clear that Spam is safe to consume. Rather than being a mysterious meat product, it's a simple, carefully crafted food with only 6 main ingredients. The little blue can on store shelves represents years of food science, wartime history, and cultural exchange. The next time you see Spam, you may view it differently. It's not just mystery meat, but a clever food that has altered global eating habits and become part of many cultures. Perhaps it's time to give this misunderstood meat another chance. Your taste buds might thank you. So, be sure to subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.